Honestly, is there anything that can stop the T-Rex? Okay, so his ferocious appearance ultimately didn't save him from extinction, which by the way also applies to his namesake made of GFRP and sheet metal by Bremach. He has also ceased to exist since the Italian vehicle manufacturers went bankrupt. That's actually a real pity, as his appearance would be so good for the next Jurassic Park film. But that's enough with the flights of fantasy. In any case, the Bremach is the ideal platform for the T-Rex 1 by Sven Scheurer, because you really can't measure this four-wheel drive by any normal standards.
Yep, Explorer has a real rarity today, a Bremach T-Rex. Some of you probably haven't ever even heard of it. No wonder, the manufacturer hasn't been around since 2015. But it's not only the vehicle itself that's special, but also what the owner Sven Scheurer has done with it. That's the Grande Casino. Those of you looking at this monster of an entry portal and thinking, wait a minute, I recognize that, you're correct. 2 years ago we drove the number one of the company called Luftgekühlt. We've provided a link to the video. This vehicle has been personally converted and kitted out by the boss himself, and it has ended up a real piece of artwork with lots of technical and visual details. A particularly nice solution has been found here to store the spare wheel. It's operated just using a normal cable winch. There's one installed here at the rear for rescue work, and at the press of a button I can lower the spare wheel right down to the ground. Release the screw. There's also an extra bracket for the bikes and I can tip them beforehand, and the complete system is so strong that it will also hold a motorbike. You can see the system close up here, a conventional winch cable with a fair lead. If I get bogged and need to pull myself, I simply pull out the hook and use it as a normal cable winch, and don't worry, naturally this massive rack isn't just attached to the cable, but it's also attached to two solid hooks here on the towing rings here. And the T-Rex also has a lot of hidden surprises and special features, and so that we can have a little look at them, let's strip it back to the bare bones. These are the original tires that are fitted on the Bremach when it rolls out of the factory, so they are real off-road tires. And the same applies to the whole vehicle. We have leaf spring-ridged axles at the front, and at the back they are even fitted with double shock absorbers. But the special thing about the T-Rex is its framework. Here at the top it has a round profile, and then from underneath a U-profile has been welded on. That makes it particularly rigid. There's no comparison to the C-profile of a normal truck, and the whole thing is covered by a pretty special chassis. This is a space frame, and it has an open grid construction where the individual chassis elements are inserted. But now let's leave the workshop and go back to the finished vehicle. So we've dressed up the machine again, and you can see here that space frame architecture really well. This is the supporting frame of the chassis, and these panels here are simply plastic ones as cladding. They don't support anything and the plastic can be replaced. But that's enough talking, let's take the vehicle for a spin.
Exactly, because the T-Rex is really in its element in off-road terrain. And with its 175 diesel HP, it's also a whole lot of fun.
Bremach has built an off-road vehicle for narrow mountain roads. That means it's quite bumpy here. It feels a bit like a Land Rover. You don't really have any space left to put your arm. The engine is no stranger. The 3-liter turbo diesel also provides service for the Iveco Daily. Then we have here a 6-gear manual transmission and a reduction gear. The 4-wheel drive gear is selectable. There's a really classic lever to operate it here, and the vehicle is pretty well equipped for a lot of off-road situations. It has self-locking diffs. I sometimes wish that I could operate that by a switch or a lever just like I can with the all-wheel drive. Then I would know exactly when it's engaged and when not.
And when it pulls out all the stops, the T-Rex can really put on a good show off-road. It's really just the tyres that set the limits here with their tame tread, but on the road they do score points with their low noise level.
One thing I really like is the way in which the front windscreen extends down so far. It lets me see really well in what would otherwise have been a blind spot. The cockpit also offers quite a few nice features: air conditioning, sprung seats. That's a pretty good thing because, as you have already seen, the vehicle with its springs at the front and the back is a pretty bumpy ride.
The real flesh and blood T-Rex was probably also an uncomfortable ride back in the day, so it's actually pretty fitting. By the way, Luftgefühl's designer Schurer really let the saddler go to town on the cockpit. The result is a comfortable compartment with a very special touch. You won't find much room here though.
The T-Rex is definitely not a van for big people. I'm 178 centimeters tall and there's only about a fist of room up there, but when the sprung seats move, then it's a bit of a tight squeeze. There also isn't a lot of room from the steering wheel to your legs, but the big steering wheel is a nice feature. I can handle it really well off-road. Schurer did a good job of covering up the screwed-on metal cladding on what would otherwise have been a standard Italian one you normally get. It's all covered in leather with big stitching. The steering wheel, the door panels, the sun visors, around the gear shifter, even the lid of the cool box and the seats. Definitely more than one cow was sacrificed for this.
Anyway, what cow can claim to be part of such a special vehicle? But it's not only all about art, but also the skill that is behind it.
So we've now entered the interior of the T-Rex, and as you would suspect from looking from the outside, there are a lot of things that are unique and pretty special here inside. The seating area is nice and big in the rear. There's a lift bed above me, it's pretty classic. The motor is installed here above me, and that's why here there's this, what would you call that? Faux diamond cladding. What I really like is this large window, because I can also use it to look out from the driver's seat to help me maneuver around. And the fact that we can eat here on a table that came from a Porsche wheel rim, well, that's just the start of what this vehicle has to offer.
It's really almost impossible to take in everything there is to see here at once. There's such a wealth of whimsical and charming details everywhere you look.
No, this thing here on my right is not the drive for the Nautilus. It's a true piece of art in the form of a stove, which also has a few tricks up its sleeve. To begin with, there's copper tubing wound around the chimney here. It works as a heat exchanger. Then there's an extra fan here that blows the heat from the stove chimney and distributes it well throughout the space. And, of course, it wouldn't be complete without the perfect wood for the wood-burning stove.
Ist für den kleinen Holzofen auch direkt das passende Brennholz mit an Bord.
And if you do happen to go on a deep sea expedition, the harpoon is included just in case.
Nope, it's really not magic, but simply run-of-the-mill camper technology.
Hang on a minute, Martin misunderstood something. Because that inscription there doesn't read, make magic, but actually, get naked. When it's time for bed. Of course, you can always make magic there. Back over to you.
So I'm here under the lift bed and it's operated with belts. The bed is set up in no time at all. There's almost 70 centimeters headroom here and a skylight in the roof. One special feature of the vehicle is definitely the veneers here on all the cabinetry. There's balsa plywood behind the scenes, but a really nice sawn piece of old pine has been glued on the front. It has a great texture and it's been thermally treated so that it's all a bit more structurally sound. It's very pleasant to touch and looks great. The countertop here in the kitchen is made of brass. A lot of brass has actually been used throughout the entire vehicle. I really like this little detail of a porthole from the yachting scene, whose job is to gobble up rubbish.
By the way, the wood for the veneer originated from old alpine huts. There's no such thing as ordinary here.
Sometimes it really is the small details. These are normal bottle holders from bicycles. There definitely won't be anything rolling around during the trip. Just like in the first conversion, the bathroom here also features a lot of glazing, and you could just as well argue about whether having a bathroom in the entry area is a good idea in the first place. But who cares about that? It's been done really well. A part of an airplane wing has been fitted here. There's a lot of brass here too. There's an old suitcase as a cupboard. Over here is a separating toilet that has been specially painted. The shower base is here. Everything is very easy to use. The shower hangs here, and of course the grate of the shower has a dual purpose. It's pretty practical. If it's a rainy day, I can pull up my drawbridge here and the water simply runs into the shower grate and drain away.
Läuft nämlich das Wasser einfach in den Duschrost und kann ablaufen.
And in the quietest place of the world, it's obvious that analog people have also been taken into consideration here. Why do I say that? Naturally, anyone who hangs up a poster like this also likes to read magazines here. And he even installed a reading lamp for when it's dark and a holder for the Explorer too. What a great idea.
Leave it to others to be sensible and, well, go off on a boat. That's simply not what Sventura is all about. From art to quirky to punk, the Luftgekühlt T-Rex slots somewhere in between. But it wouldn't do it justice to simply reduce it down to a work of art. By the way, the name Luftgekühlt, which means air-cooled in German, doesn't refer to the engine, but to the construction of the cabin. There's an aluminium sandwich panel on the outside, and it's been designed for air to pass through its core from bottom to top. The manufacturer hopes that this will provide cooling for the camper in summer. Behind this is insulation made of hard foam and sheep's wool. Altogether, it's a pretty big production. Or, as the Italians say, grande casino. It's got a bit of everything. Would you like to have a look at more crazy vehicles, or are you more into cold hard technology? There's a little bit of everything on our channel.